Welcome, golf fans, pursuer of the almighty dollar and knowledge. This is your golf guru, going to be breaking down each player for the Tour Championship, giving you projections for ownership. And we got some time. We got 30 players. We're going to do some deep dive analysis. So let's get into this. First, some quick house cleaning items to take care of. Just note to self, tournament starts Friday at noon Eastern, ends on Monday, because we have Labor Day. And if you watched the video prior, which was released on Monday, where I did some first glance and broke down the course, I did state it was a par 72. Had a brain fart. It is a par 70, par 72 for members. Almost 7,400 yards. Donald Ross, Zach Johnson, lowest score 60. Back in the days, the guys that won here were the accurate, good putters. It's not too far off, but of course nowadays we have guys that can hit it very long and pretty accurate. So as you know, Rory has won the last 2 out of 3 years. All right, so I've already kind of covered all this. I will just point out, if this is new to you and you didn't watch the Monday video, we're looking, the guys that are successful here is shots gained on approach, putting, key 2 stats off the tee, not as big of a concern. Need to do well on the long par 4s. There's quite a few of them from 425 to 500. That's the guys that win here. Got to do some scoring on par 5s. And if you're doing showdown, I'm looking at guys that are going to start on the first hole. The front 9, because plain and simple, the back 9 is definitely the harder. And I kind of feel like if you're seeing some putts going in, get on some momentum, then hey, you might have a good day. So that's my little tidbits on the course. Also, side note, if you haven't been on planet Earth, you would have not heard that Rory is expecting first child, baby girl, who is past due. And he's already stated he will walk off the course if he gets the call. Or, you know, I'm guessing it's going to happen before the tournament and he's not even going to play in it, which I think is actually better, because nothing would be worse if he's doing well, you know, and here comes Sunday and the call comes or whatever it is. So with that said, it's been a crazy 2020 season, which, you know, we got some crazy projections on ownership that I'll go into. And the only way that, you know, you're going to win this thing is if you find that guy that's low cost, low ownership, and breaks through. And that's what we're going to try to do. So let's do this. All right, starting right off the gate, you got DJ, of course, your leader at 10 under. What can you say? You know, we all know he wanted the Northern Trust. He had a second, as we just watched this past weekend, awesome tournament. You know, like 100 feet of putts made in like 2 holes. And, you know, had a second at the PGA and a 12th at the W St. Jude. He also had those 80s, but, you know, we got that fixed, so we don't have to worry about that now. But if you do some deep dive analysis into his history at East Lake, you know, his best finish was a 3rd in 2018. He had 2 fifth place finishes. He had a 6th and a 29th last year, which he actually played terrible last year, in a 17th in 2007. So, you know, I wouldn't say the best form at this course. And also, he has lost strokes putting in every tournament every tournament he's played in at East Lake, except for 2018. And so I am fading DJ because he's just way too expensive. If you plug him in your lineup, it just kind of is hard to, you know, to get any kind of near a balanced build, or to get the other guys that, you know, could do well here. But funny enough, he is at low ownership. And so I guess, you know, a lot of people are thinking the same kind of strategy. He's at right now 15.8%, which that might sound high, but in this field, we've got some almost 30%ers. So, you know, it's going to be a lot like the showdowns. If you played the Sunday showdowns where, you know, guys are coming in already, you know, knowing that they're going to have those points already in their handed. So when DJ hits that first tee shot, he's going to have 30 points right off the bat. Now, is that 30 points going to be there when it's all said and done? I'm betting no, and so on and so forth, you know, throughout the tournament. So we're looking for the guys that can move up, that can make a lot of birdies, and you know, that's who we're targeting. Common sense. Moving on. Mr. Jon Rahm, also, you know, starting at 8 under. Of course, great recent form, but Bermuda is his worst putting surface. And his course history at East Lake, you know, it's solid, a 12th, an 11th, and a 7th. But again, remembering that's out of field of 30. He's lost strokes putting in every tournament here, ranging from about a stroke to 4.6. So, you know, again, as I mentioned, Bermuda not his favorite. And he struggled here on the greens. And Donald Ross course is the biggest protection it has is a lot of undulation and crazy fast greens. So, you know, I'm going to fade Rahm on this. It's a lot due to cost. His ownership is, you know, not crazy. It's 23%. But, you know, the putting is a key category. And so, you know, with the win, you know, I typically don't play guys that just won the tournament previous. I'm not saying Rahm can't, you know, deal with that. But yeah, it's just going to be a fade for me. All right, Justin Thomas, starting at 7 under. You know, he has not had the best recent form since the win at St. Jude, which is a comp course. So that fits well, which that was in early August. He's still gaining strokes in all the key categories, but the putter is where he's been having issues. And why I like him is Bermuda is his favorite putting surface, and I expect him to get back to form around the greens and putting. So he actually lost strokes last weekend at Olympia Fields around the green, which, you know, that is rare for him. He is excellent. Now, his ownership is high. He's a bit chalky, but again, everybody's going to be chalky. He's coming in at 29.6, so one of the higher guys in this upper tier. The next guy, Webb Simpson, starting at 6 under. And, you know, he's coming in with fresh legs. I think it was smart to skip those 4 days of pure misery, pretty much. That course does not fit him. It wouldn't shock me if he got a tip from somebody saying how hard the course is going to play. And literally, you know, if he would have went out and, you know, had a disaster, he actually could be in a worse starting spot than only losing like one spot. You know, if you know Webb and why a lot of people, of course, are already on him is, you know, par 70s, Bermuda, that is his jam. That's where he wins. That's where he does very well. If you kind of just go back, just some, you know, recent form at comp courses, you know, he won the RBC Heritage. He had a 3rd at the Wyndham, which is a comp course, a 12th at WGC. And, you know, just looking at recent form, he had 2 top 10s, and his kind of the worst 2 he's had since the restart was a 37th at the PGA, which, again, that course just did not fit him. That's a bomber's course, which we saw. And a miscut at Memorial, which, again, that the conditions there were crazy. If anybody had a miscut there, I don't really hold it against him. His history at East Lake at the Tour Championship, he's got 3 top 5s, a 13th, a 16th in 2019 last year, and a 23rd. Shots gained off the tee has been an issue, but again, you know, at East Lake, the rough is not that hard, and, you know, if you don't hit the green or the fairways every time, you can still make up with it around the greens with your putter, which he has done, and the approach is solid, which he needs here too. So the 2 main categories I think you need to win here, approach and putting, he's rocking and has good past history, so I'm in on Simpson. Morikawa starting at 5 under. You know, I've been fading Morikawa since the PGA win, and I'm just going to stay with it. You know, his recent form, he's struggling. He's slicing the ball. He's not hitting the fairways, which is kind of not typical for Collins. So something's going on there. He did have a pretty good Saturday, Sunday at the BMW, and ended up pulling out a 20th finish. But had one, I think he shot maybe the 5th best weekend finish. But he did have a miscut, as we know, at Northern Trust after the first major win, and he has no course history at East Lake, at least in the PGA. I don't know about anything prior. And Bermuda greens are his worst putting surface, which is again a key category that we're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead and fade him. His projected ownership is at 25.1%. Just so you know, this is being recorded Tuesday evening around 8:30 Eastern time. So, because it's a Friday start, we still got 2 days of things changing, but I would say wherever the projections are right now are probably likely where they're going to come in. All right, moving on to Daniel Berger, starting out at 4 under, course history at East Lake. He's played her 3 times. His best finish is a 12th, and he's got 215. So, I didn't go back and figure out where he started on all those, but again, a field of 30, I'd say that's average. The putter has been, negative strokes every event, and Bermuda is barely a positive surface for him, but it is a positive. His recent form's been a little bit Jekyll and Hyde with the miscut at Memorial, but I kind of mentioned, tough conditions. And he had a 25th at the BMW and a 13th at the PGA. But he does like the shorter courses. And so you can kind of hear from the beginning, I was going to fade Berger, but I've been on the Berger train and I'm waiting for him to pay off for me. And so what I kind of started to do more analysis, he had a third at the RBC, which is Harbor Town, which is a par 71 Bermuda. He had a second at TPC Southwind, which is the St. Jude. That's a par 70 Bermuda. He won that event in 2017. And the Honda Classic, which is a par 70, he placed 4th this year, and also Bermuda. So, I feel like it's a good fit for him. I still feel like his, recent history is, recent form is solid. And like I said, I've been on the train. I can't jump off at this point because if he actually ended up pulling it off, coming back from 4 under, I'd be a little bit devastated. So I'm in. And his projected ownership is 27.7. So a lot of other folks are also on the Berger train. All right, Harris English starting at 4 under. What's amazing, and I didn't know this, but Harris English, from everything I could find out, has not actually won a golf tournament since 2013. Now, if I'm incorrect on that, I got to go back and do more analysis, but I did a quick scroll through, and the first win I could find was 2013. He does like Bermuda greens, but played in this event at East Lake, the Tour Championship, only once. Ended up 22nd in 2015. He lost strokes in all categories in shots gained except for putting, where he actually gained 6.5 strokes. So he would have ended up pretty much a dead last if he wouldn't have putted lights out. What I also with Harris, if conditions, if it gets windy and rainy, English would be your guy, but I don't see the weather doing it this weekend in Atlanta. So I'm passing this week. He just doesn't have enough firepower to move up the board and get enough birdies as far as I'm concerned. So he's a pass for me. His ownership projection right now is at 19.1. All right, moving on to Mr. DeChambeau. Again, he is starting at 4 under. And Bermuda is a positive putting surface for him. It's not his favorite, but it is positive. He's only had, so shots gained for his last 2 appearances. All right, sorry about that. Shots gained total putting is only at 2 appearances at TC. He's struggled around the greens at East Lake. He's struggling in his past few events around the greens. He's been struggling with approach, losing on average 5 strokes. So that's a problem. And so the short of this is the 4 out of the last 5 tournaments, he's not been putting. He's not hitting the approach. And really his only positive over those past 5 tournaments was the 4th at the PGA, which again was a bomber's course. So I'm going to pass. It also looks like a lot of other folks are passing. His ownership projection 16.8, that's pretty low. Again, considering you have 30 guys. Now, if you want to get some leverage on the field, you can take a flyer on DeChambeau, but I will be off him this week. I have been riding him, hoping that the form was going to get back to where it was, at the Rocket. So that is one thing I didn't note. He did win the Rocket Mortgage. That is a Donald Ross course. and you got Bermuda greens. So, you know, hey, maybe there's something there. All right, moving on to Mr. Sanjay M. He is starting 6 strokes back at 4 under also. We all know his recent form since the restart has been subpar, to say the least. His last top 10, though, was at the Wyndham, which is a par 70 and is a Bermuda greens. And if you do some back analysis, he likes the par 70s and he really likes the Bermuda. So in March, you know, he won the Honda, which, you know, as I just mentioned, par 70 Bermuda. He was third at the API, which is a par 73, but is Bermuda. And he's only played East Lake Tour Championship once, ended up 19th, where he lost strokes in all categories, but gained 7.1 strokes putting. So this is a flyer. If he gets back to his form that I know is hitting fairways, good on approach, he's an awesome putter on Bermuda. We know that. This is the one that, you know, it's a risky play, but somewhere I've got to find some leverage on the field, and he's only at 11% owned right now. So this is going to be my one stretch area. I don't know how much of Sanjay I'll play, but he is going to be in some of my lineups. All right, moving on to Hideki, the last at the top 10 tier. Another one starting at 4 under. This one's tricky because, you know, Matsy Boy somehow learned how to putt. And he's historically been a terrible putter, but his last 3 rounds, he's gained on putting, which is rare. And as I stated in my previous, that, you know, he made some changes to his putting stroke, and he's found something with it. Maybe it's just confidence, but you know, his putting stroke has changed and it's working. But I'm kind of worried about, you know, if he does start to struggle with the putter, does he, you know, fall back to the old stroke? And he's played here 6 times at East Lake, and he has a 4th, a 5th, and a 9th. The 9th was in last year. But the 3 other appearances was a 12th, a 22nd, and a 26th, which was in 2017. So you can look at that as 50-50 if you want to look at course history. He's lost strokes off the tee in all 6 appearances at East Lake. Bermuda is his worst putting surface. So I think, you know what, I'm going to just take a flyer that his putting magic goes away, and it's a fade for me. I'm out on Hideki this week, and his ownership projection right now is at 18.2%. So if we take a look at who I'm going with off this slide, I've got JT, I've got Webb Simpson, I'm staying on the burger train, and my crazy leverage play will be Sanjay M. All right, let's move on to the next tier. Starting out with Brennan Todd, he will be starting 3 under. I like Todd. You know, he likes par 70s, Bermuda greens. You do some past history on him. He was 4th at the RSM, which is par 70 Bermuda. 1 at the Mayakoba, which was a par 71, but that is Paulson. But the speed there, so sometimes when you play Paulson greens, they could be like Velcro. But the speed at Mayakoba was, you know, average. He won at the Bermuda Championship, which of course has Bermuda greens, and par was 71. So you know what? I'm going to be rostering Todd, and yes, the Bermuda putting surface is his best. So I'm all in. He likes to hit fairways, good on approach, great recent form, and his ownership projection is 17.3. So that's pretty good. You know, it's, well, I'm not gonna say it's a huge leverage play. It's not the Sanjay M at 11, but you know, you got some room there. All right, to Rory, starting at 3 under. We already mentioned that this is tricky because of the WD possibilities. And lately, I've been having luck. If I'm picking a guy as a leverage play, I picked for the Northern at TPC Boston, I picked Koepka. He withdrew. I was on Webb to possibly win the past event, even though, like I said, it's not a perfect, but I just had the feelings with that course actually might have been bad for him, and he withdrew. So Rory, it was not going to shock me if he withdraws, before this event even takes place. We all know that his past history at Eastlake is amazing. Out of the last 3 events he's played here, he won in 2019, he won in 2016, he had a third in 2014, he had 2 more top 10s. His worst finish ever at Eastlake at the Tour Championships, the 16th, and that was in 2016. He's still having issues with the putter, losing strokes, but the past 4 events, Rory has starting to gain some strokes putting. Or I apologize. The past 4 events at Eastlake, he has gained strokes putting. 3 out of the 6 appearances. So Rory's, it's going to be a game time decision for me right now. I do have some lineups I'm going to put him in, but knowing that I will, make sure I have a quick pivot. Because like I said, I just have a feeling come by Friday, well, hopefully by Thursday, that he just withdraws. Because it's going to be a little upsetting if he's doing well and on Sunday and pulls out. His ownership right now is pretty low because of that. It's at 16% even. So just note to self. All right, moving on to Patricio Reid. Bermuda is his worst putting surface. His best finish at Eastlake is a 9th, and that's playing 5 events. And all the information I could find there, he just had a lot of negatives and shot gains. He just struggled in all categories. So you know what? This is gonna be a quick one. I'm out on Reid. His ownership projection is 16.6. Moving on to Xander Schauffele. He's starting at 3 under. His last win was in January of 2019 at the Century of Tournaments at Kapalua, which is a par 73. This course is all about that win. I guess what I'm getting to is you couldn't have 2 different kind of courses. Kapalua, is a scoring beast. I think that's where Spieth shot his 30 under. Crazy wide fairways. The greens are Velcro. They're that pulsum too. So, I'm a little shocked. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that Schauffele has not won since the Century Tournaments. His course history at Eastlake, though, is solid. He had a win in 2017. He had a 2nd in 2019 and a 7th in 2018. But his recent form, he's had 2 25th finishes at Northern Trust and BMW, so his FedEx playoffs have been kind of humdrum. The putter's been He's been losing strokes around the green, and his ball striking's actually been a little off. But Bermuda and also Bermuda greens is his worst putting surface. So I can't take everyone. So I am out on Xander this week, and his ownership projection is coming in pretty high at 27.7. All right, moving on to Mr. Sebastian Munoz. He will be starting also at 3 under. He loves Bermuda greens, has a great course fit for him. He had a 3rd at the RSM, which is a par 70 Bermuda. He won at Sanderson Farms, which is Bermuda greens, but a par 72. And then at RBC, he ended up 28th, but it was a par 71 in Bermuda. But again, that's a field of 160, a little different than 30. So a 28th finish out of that's pretty solid. So with Munoz, I'm going to be sprinkling. So I have kind of 3 of the core guys I'm going to be using. I'm going to have the pure fades, and then I'm going to have some sprinklers. And Munoz is a sprinkler. And he's coming in at a pretty decent ownership projection at 15.7. So, you get a bit of a leverage on the field if you go with old Sebastian. Antalanto Griffin, starting at 2 under. If you watched my previous shows, you will know that if Lanto is less than 7K, he 10Xs every time his value. And so this week, he's actually at 5,600. So just on my own principle alone, I've got to put Lanto in. He likes Bermuda greens. He's decent, on decent form with a 10th place at the BMW, which is a par 70. It's a little different than what they're playing now, but it's a POA green, but, it is a long par 70. He had a 19th at the PGA, which, is not the best, I don't think, fit for him, but pretty well that he ended up 19th at the PGA Championship. He had a 7th at the Sony, which is a par 70 and is a Bermuda green. And he won the Houston Open, which is Bermuda greens, but is a par 72. So long story short, I'm in on some Lanto. He will be in my core. And he is coming in ownership projection at 21.7%. All right. Scheffler, going to be pretty quick. Not a course fit, has no course history there. Bermuda is his worst putting surface. And I'm out. So again, I'm not going with the Bombers this week. And it's just all due to everything I'm finding out through the analytics and the models. Don't get me wrong. I guess if you could drive the green and make, and two-whack it, you might have something. But everything I'm seeing, the Bombers are not the way to go. His ownership projection is still pretty high, 23.3 for Scheffler, because he does get a lot of points, but like I said, I think just with recent form I've been seeing, and he's also been putting above his average. He's been gaining way too many strokes putting, and that's typically not Mr. Scotty Scheffler. So, and Bermuda is, again, not a good surface for him. Moving on. All right, Joaquin Niemann starting at 2 under. I'm fading, no course history. Everyone's, touting him because of his 3rd place here this last weekend. But before that, it was miscut at Northern Trust, a 42nd place at the Wyndham, which is a perfect comp course, and then a miscut at the PGA. So I'm not falling in love with Niemann. I'm going to pass on him. He is owner projection right now is at almost 20%, 19.9. So I'm a pass. All right, Mr. Tyrrell Hatton. He's starting 2 under, and he likes Bermuda. He won at the API Bay Hill, which is a par 73, but is a Bermuda greens. He had a 4th at the RBC, which is Harbor Town, which is a par 71, but Bermuda greens. He had a 4th at the last Donald Ross course, which was the Rocket Mortgage Detroit Country Club. And that is, I think that's bent though. But it is a Donald Ross design, so we're going to go with it. He has decent recent form. If you look at the 2 FedEx events only, he's posted at 16th and 25th at Northern Trust. He did have the miscut at the PGA, and he had a 69th at the WGC St. Jude, which is a par 70 Bermuda. So I'm a little cautious. I like Hatton, but again, he's going to be a sprinkler. I'm going to just sprinkle him in some lineups, but he's not going to be in the core. And he's also coming in pretty highly owned already. His ownership projection is 25.6, so almost 26%. All right, last but not least in this middle tier is Mr. Tony Fenow. This is going to be quick. I just don't think it's a course fit. Again, for whatever reason, everything I'm seeing, Bombers just aren't fitting into the models and the stats and the past history. His only win, as we know, is at the Puerto Rico Open, which is a par 72. It's a alternative tournament. I call it a B tournament. And the greens are Paulsome and they're Velcro. So the only time this guy has actually closed a deal is on a course that is pretty generous. Let's just put it that way. I like Tony. I've been playing him. He's a good point generator, but for this event, we can't take everyone. I'm making a stand. I'm going to say no. And he's also coming in at almost 27% owned or going to be owned. So, yeah, Finau's a pass. All right, Kevin Kisner starting at 1 under in the 21st pole position. Kisner started, well, let's hold on one second. I do want to just kind of summarize who I am picking. So I'm going with Todd, McElroy, Munoz, Lanto, and Hatton. So out of this group, those guys are going to be somewhat sprinkled or in my core. And Rory's a game time decision. Like I said, I'm just expecting maybe it's been announced. Usually I'm recording these when the withdrawals happen. So as soon as I get this done, it'll probably be announced that Rory is out. All right, last here, starting out with Kevin Kisner, as mentioned, 1 under. What's interesting is he's starting at the 21st position. Last year he started at the 20th, and he moved up to a tie for 9th. and he also has had a third place finish in 2017 at East Lake. So I'm liking some kids. You know, he has struggled off the tee. So every time he's played at East Lake, which has been 4 times, off the tee is what's been hurting him. But as I mentioned, off the tee is not that crucial here. This week, rough will not be penalized. And his approach, though, has been strong around the green, and putting's been strong. Those are the key areas. Kisner has also had solid recent form over the past 4 events. If you look back for his off the tee and approach, and his putting is always a positive, gaining on average 5 to 8 strokes against the field at the Northern Trust and at the WGC St. Jude. So again, I will have some shares of Kisner. He is going to be a sprinkle. He is not going to be in my core. But yeah, and his ownership projection is coming in at 25.1%. So just over 25%. All right, Abraham Answer, starting at 1 under, does not have, I just don't think he has the firepower to make it up the board in recent form. Has not been good. Bermuda is a negative putting surface. It's actually his worst surface. As mentioned, his recent form has been just blah. He had a 30, ended up 33rd at BMW, missed the cut at Northern Trust, a 43rd at the PGA. He did have a 2nd place finish at the RBC, which, is one of the comp courses I'm using, but he was also in much better form. So again, I had to make a stand. I can't take everyone. If this was, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, I'd probably been all over Answer. But right now, the way things are looking, I'm not digging it. So I'm out. But his ownership projection, there is a leverage play here. He's coming in at 15%. So I guess other people are having some of the same feelings. All right, Ryan Palmer, also in the 1 under class. Can get super streaky, hot with the putter, and Bermuda is his best putting surface. And he needs it because, at times he's not that great of a putter, but he can get super streaky. He's got decent recent form. He had a 2nd place at the Memorial, which that's impressive under those very tough conditions. I like that. He had an 8th at Northern Trust, a 15th at WGC St. Jude, which, again, I'm using as a comp course. He ended up 40th last weekend and a 43rd at the PGA. So, those are kind of thumbs downs, but all in all, I like it. Solid form. If you go to the comp courses, as mentioned, RBC, he had an 8th. At the Sony, ended up 4th, and at a 17th at the Honda, and a 6th at the Charles Schwab, which is a par 70, but big grass. All the other ones were Bermuda grasses, but I threw in the Schwab because it's a par 70, and it was a 6th place. So long story short, I'm in. He's coming in pretty highly touted from an ownership projection. Right now, he's almost at 25%, 24.8 to be exact. All right, Mr. Kevin na. This will be kind of quick. Starting at 1 under, just like Answer, doesn't have the firepower to climb up the leaderboard. Recent form is not good. He had a 51st at the BMW, a 39th at the Northern Trust, missed cut at the PGA, and a 35th at the WGC St. Jude. He's played at East Lake, the Tour Championship, 4 times, and not good. He's at a 25th, a 29th, a 16th, and a 19th. So out of a field of 30, no thank you. But if you want to leverage play, his ownership projection is coming in at just over 10%, so 10.1. So if you like yourself some he can get hot with the putter, and typically can keep it in play, but I'm just not feeling it. So I'm out on Mark Leishman, oh God, what a dumpster fire. I don't know what to say, but he's starting at 1 under. What I think is interesting with this one is everybody is focused on Rory and Sungjae Im as being like the worst golfers since the restart, where they had this amazing form before, and then after the restart, they've fallen apart. And, no one's really, at least I don't hear a lot of coverage on Mark Leishman, but he is by far been the worst since the restart. So let's just take a look at this. So since the Charles Schwab, which was the first tournament back, he has missed 4 cuts. He was dead last weekend at the BMW, and which was 69th. And the reason why that was is because Simpson pulled out, so they didn't replace anybody. He was 58 at the Travelers, 52nd at the WGC, and his only highlight since the Charles Schwab, which is not much, but for him, we'll call it a highlight. He ended up 40th at the Memorial. So I don't think we need to talk a whole lot more about that. If somehow the leash man just pulls the Jim Herman out of nowhere this week, then God bless him. But yeah, he's come. I mean, if you want the super duper leverage play, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that throw him in their lineup, he's going to come in at 4 point. Right now, his ownership projection is less than 5%, 4.3. So he's the lowest projected own right now. Cam Smith, who's been kind of my darling during these FedEx playoffs. You know, he's starting at even. You know, I've been riding him this whole time. So long story short, I'm going to sprinkle him in some lineups. I'm going to stay with him. You know, Bermuda greens are a neutral putting surface for him. You know, Poa is his favorite by far. He's had good recent form, as we just discussed. You know, he had a 20th at the BMW and 18th at Northern Trust. But he won the Sony this year, which is a par 70 and Bermuda. That's his, you know, only win, which is pretty much what got him even in the playoffs. And he's been, you know, really good form with the approach shots and around the green. So if the putter can just stay neutral and off the tee can, you know, just maybe be a little better, you know, he could do well. I'm not saying he's going to win, but we're looking for guys down here that, you know, could get in the top 10. So I'm in. It's going to be a sprinkle. It's not going to be a core play, but I'm in. His ownership projection is at 12.2. All right, Victor Hoblin, starting at 3 under. Simple fade for me. Bermuda is a negative putting surface for him. He's had minimal success. So I did, you know, all his research on my comp courses, and it wasn't good. His putter has come back to normal. He was gaining like 5 strokes the last few tournaments. At the BMW, he just gained 1.5. And he has no course history here, which, you know, I'm not saying is the end of the world, but yeah, it's, again, can't pick them all. I'm going to fade Hav. I like Big Dig Vic, but I faded him last week. It worked out. I'm going to fade him again. And he's coming in at 23.1 ownership projection. All right. On to Mckenzie Hughes. Mac Hughes, the Canadian Jordan Spieth, I like to call him. Starting at even, you know, Mac's got good recent form. He had a 10th at the BMW, a 13th at the Northern Trust. And all that was, you know, without that, to sneak into to Eastlake this weekend. Bermuda is a positive putting surface for him. He also placed second at the Honda, which I'm using as a comp course, which is a par 70 Bermuda. He had a 3rd at the Travelers, which is also a par 70, but is POA. He's never played at Eastlake. But the short is we need to take, you know, one of these guys at the bottom to kind of open up the roster. And the way I look at it, of all these guys down in the even, he's the one I like a lot. And also his ownership projections coming in less than 20%, 19.8, which is still high, but I think some other people know that, you know, he can get crazy with that putter. And so, you know, with Bermuda being one of his better putting surfaces, I'm in. All right, Cameron Champ, starting at even, and I'm out. It's, again, I don't know why, but I just don't think it's a course fit for the Bombers. You know, in recent form is Muy Fuego, freezing. You know, he had a 65. He played 65 at the BMW, miscut at Northern Trust, miscut at Memorial. His best showing was, of course, a 10th at the PGA. But again, if we look at everybody that ended up at, you know, the top, the PGA were all Bombers, and that course just fit that. So I'm off the Champ train. I had him last week. He burned me bad, and I'm kind of over it. So his ownership projection is, again, is a good leverage play. He's less than 10%, 9.2. So, you know, you could go a whole – maybe not a bad core strategy would be to just put a Bomber lineup together and just see what happens. Because right now, like I said, a lot of people are off them. And somehow I'm ending up with a lot of chalk. But, you know, all the analytics, which is pointing that way. All right, last but not least, Billy Ho. Simply put, I'm in. You know, he just got in, and he's starting at even, but Billy won at East Lake in 2014. at the Tour Championship. He had a 2nd place in 2018, and he had a 7th in 2013. So, you know, he loves Bermuda greens, and it's a great course fit. So I'm in on Billy Ho, but so is everybody else. His ownership projection is almost 30%, 29.1. So just quickly, the highest owned guys, just so you can just keep a little note to yourself, it's Billy Horschel, Justin Thomas, Webb Simpson, Daniel Berger, and let me see, Xander Schauffele is almost 28%. That's about it. The rest are going to be in the 20s, and like I said, I kind of mentioned the areas that you could get some leverage. And so to summarize for this, I'm going Kiz. I like me some Palmer, the Mac Hughes, and Billy Ho. So that's it for me. I hope this helps. All the best of luck, and I will keep on doing this. I'm starting to get more and more subscribers and views, and I think a lot of the main industry guys are going to be kind of focusing on football. So if you want your inside analysis for all the upcoming golf for 2021, I'll be here. And might start to change the formats. Some people have asked, you know, hey, we only hear your voice, like to see your ugly mug. So I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to add a little more pizzazz into the show. And so, hey, I appreciate whoever is watching this. I think there's some good insights here. And again, all the best of luck. Have a great tournament.